Call to order, the board of directors meeting for January 23rd, 2023. At Clackamas Fire, we are always here for you. We value our people and the people we serve. Our focus is establishing team TEAMS trust, empowerment, accountability, mindset, and service. This regular monthly meeting of the Clackamas Fire District #1 Board of Directors is called to order at 5:01 p.m. for ORS 192.610 to 192.690. For ORS 192.650, this meeting is being recorded. The video recording of this meeting will be placed on the Clackamas Fire website. We found any changes to the agenda?
Thank you, Marilyn. Yes, we do have a couple of small changes to the agenda. We're going to have a change in add item B2 to the agenda for budget extension for the Clackamas Emergency Services Foundation presented by Lieutenant Jerry Kearney. We have one small change with Chief Huffman under the Emergency Services report out. That will be Chief Dan Mueller. And then underneath other business or community liaison report outs, Director Cross will have a committee report for the foundation.
Thank you. Anyone have changes to the agenda? Okay. Hearing none, then approval of the minutes of the work session and the regular board meeting on December 19th, 2022. Does any board member have comments or changes to share regarding either of those sets of minutes? Okay. If there are no changes, and therefore the minutes for both the work session and the regular board meeting on December 19th, 2022 stand approved as written. At this time, I'm going to call for statements from citizens regarding district business. I have two people in who have signed up who are here personally and one on Zoom. Are there any others that you know of, Ariella? No. Okay, currently that's it. So our rules for that is that any person who signs up will have up to 3 minutes to share their question or comment. Please, even though you've submitted your written request, state your name at the beginning of your question or comment and your residential location so we can establish if you are a member of our constituency. The first comment form is from John Tillstrom. If you step up to the podium, please, John.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is John Kilstrom, live in Gladstone, Oregon. My question to the board is that after all the Zoom meetings, has the manual been looked at for updating or in the plans are updating to cover all those changes that have occurred? Is assume that sometime in the future, there may be another bunch of Zoom meetings or something like that.
Yeah, we have updated to reflect the hybrid. I'm assuming that's what you're asking, right? Yes, the board policy manual has been updated to reflect this current model of hybrid meetings to be presented to the public.
All right, next request for public comment is from Pat Bigelow.
Hi, everybody here. Be a member of this organization till I got too old. I see nothing's changed. I'm still one of the older people. Nothing has changed is all the kids that I fight fires with and stuff now have badges and crosses and all sorts of things on there. Nice to see you all again. Well, I was quite surprised, I must say, to learn that there's a proposal for the levy that's coming up. Because the one thing I'll try to sit with my wife, look at this and make sure I was politically correct. So I will try to stick to it. Those that know me know I'm always politically correct. The fire department does an incredible job. I mean, for the size of this district, not department, district, I think it does a phenomenal amount of job. A phenomenal job with the amount of money that it has to work with and divvy out to the different divisions and stuff. For both non-emergency services and emergency response. having ISO rating of 2 reflects that. I mean, the ability of this district to do its job and what's expected of them.
Excuse me, could you speak a little louder?
I'll try.
Thank you.
My microphone isn't working.
I know.
And keep reminding me if I tend to, my wife, she's got hearing aids now and she says I still come down, so. The ISO rating of 2 really reflects the level that this fire district has gotten to with response, both fire, emergency, non-emergency, the prevention division, and all the other divisions. I'm quite impressed with it. Working for Boring for the years and years and years we worked there. You know, it was realistic that we could get to a level, but never to a 2. So I'm quite impressed with that, and the public should be too. I think any district or department would be just elated to get funds like this for what the district has indicated they would be used for. I mean, the proposal to use it. I mean, that any district would be delighted to do that. Right? So it's not that they're ill-intended or they're not to be used, you know, realistically and for good, but because they are. I don't have any problem with that. But looking at the mission, the goal, purpose, I don't see anything in there ever that addresses affordability to the public. You know, that's one thing. I'm on a board of a special district, and that's the one thing we have right up front is the affordability of services we provide. So I'm a bit concerned at that. I have a 50-year-old single-story ranch house on a junior acre. I pay a little over $800 right now in fire department taxes, including the bond. And if this levy was to go into effect, I'd be paying over $1,000, a 25% increase. If this goes into effect, I'm gonna try to stick this from getting any of it. I watched both of the public meetings, or 2 of the public meetings online there, and I heard something that really was ground into me badly, and that is somebody said it's only 34 cents a day. Well, you know, we have 2 school districts that pulled that same stunt, and it's very disingenuous. It's not 34 cents a day, it's hundreds of dollars a year for not only 5 years, but indefinitely. You're not going to hire these firefighters and then in 5 years not reapply for the levy again. It's a permanent fee is what it is. I'm not saying it's not needed and it's not justified. I'm just saying that that's really what it is. And as you all know, cost of everything for homeowners has gone up. I'm an old person and I'm on retirement, but you know, I mean, everything's gone up, everything. And I don't expect the cost of the fire service not to go up also, but we have to be able to afford it. That's what I'm saying. I think while this is a just cause and everything, I think it's the wrong time to go to the public. I'm not doubting that it'll pass. There's just too many people. I shouldn't say it that way. Go to sleep at home.
I know what you're saying.
Wife tells me not to go. It'll probably pass. But I think it's the wrong time to take it to the public and do this to them. If the economy turns down, things are going to go the other direction very quickly. And what are you going to do with 50, 60 new firefighters? There's not going to be any funds there for them. So I really think should be other ways to do this. The 2 stations you're talking about, they could surely be staffed by, you know, fire season staff, hired part-time. And I'm sure that you have all the ways to do this. I wouldn't try to second guess any of that. I appreciate where you're coming from with it also. Anyway, I strongly urge the board to postpone placing this on the levy is all I can say. And if they choose to, please put in there what it's really going to cost people and the fact that it's going to be needed post 5 years. I mean, if it doesn't get passed in five years down the road, then what are you going to do? So I just don't think this is a good way to fund firefighters, although it's not uncommon. is the wrong way to fund firefighters. I don't know what you can do with the tax base that you've already got. So, anyway, that's all I have.
Thank
Any
you.
questions?
Thank you.
I'll be nice.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Okay, and then we have public comment coming in by Zoom with William Gifford.
Did he come in?
He's on, he's still muted.
There we go.
He's working at it.
Good evening,
evening.
Will.
My name is William Gifford, and I'm a resident of Oregon City. Because there's only 3 minutes here, I'm trying to be as concise as I can. I mentioned that I wanted to talk about the process that we're going through on this issue. And I'll split that into past, present, future, and start with the present. The present is, my suspicion is that there's a sunk cost element here that's going to require you to go ahead and move to put this on the ballot. I don't know how you can get around that. And I'll talk about that in the past. But the other issues I want you to be aware of, that there are things, the political landscape has changed a little bit, not just the economic, but the fact that Oregon City is going to be having a major ballot issue as well, that is going to be head to head with what we are asking for the fire district. And the fact that the urban renewal issue is not asking any of the voters to increase their taxes. CFD is, that's just a given. There's another minor issue on there about a park something, but that's not going to be, but I'm concerned about both of these issues being on the ballot at the same time. Back to my first premise is, I think you're going to put this on the ballot anyway. I'm not sure if you have all of your ballot title and argument all lined up and finalized, because that requirement is coming due quite soon. And I just know that because I'm working on the city's issue as well, and everybody's scurrying. The past part that I wanted to talk about was how we came to be where we are. I'm honestly a little disappointed that more people weren't involved earlier on. When I say that, I'm talking specifically, there's a couple of other members on the budget committee, as I am, that have a lot of experience in running campaigns and in running elections and getting initiatives passed. I think that some of you may know that's how I got involved in this all to begin with, is working to get Oregon City annexed into the district. That took a lot of work. It took a lot of work. And I'm hoping that the board is well aware that the staff is not going to be able to advocate for this. Yes, the unions, God bless them, are going to be able to do that, and if history proves to repeat itself, they will be front and center at getting this message across. I'm expecting that all of the commissioners are going to also be working to put arguments in the voters pamphlet for arguments in favor, of course. There's a lot of work to be done. I am a little disappointed that there was not a kitchen cabinet with a point person involved, a special vetting of how messages are being crafted. The message from the chief on the city's on the district's website speaks too little about the need and too much about the ask. And in my experience, you've got to hammer the need. You've got to hammer the need in first. You've got to tell people that we're short on firefighters. Don't have to go into all the reasons why we are, but why we need the money is more important than the fact that we need the money. And there's just there's a psychological aspect to that. And I don't know that there is, and I'll use the phrase again, a kitchen cabinet of citizens, experienced citizens that know how to run campaigns and can craft messages. And I'm hoping that's that was an oversight at the beginning, but that now let me turn to the future aspect of it. The future aspect of it is, if you want to get this thing passed, and despite our previous speaker's optimism, it could pass, but it's a heavy lift for citizens at this particular economic time. I wish that there was some way that we could postpone this, but I doubt that there is. I'm just suggesting that get some more citizens involved in crafting your message, because there's still a lot of work to do.
Okay.
Hope that wasn't too lengthy.
That's fine, William. And it certainly goes without saying that you are dedicated to the fire district, and no question that you are material reason why Oregon City is in the fire district. So we thank you for your past contributions to them, and look forward to you continuing to do that and give us the input that we need to hear.
Just need an opportunity.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, then Chief, are you going to do
Thank you.
the inspection plan?
Yes. Thanks, William. Appreciate you being here. Okay, we have a couple of introductions that I want to bring before the board today, and we're going to first start off with Captain Isla Borders. Captain Isla Borders is the new training captain with Clackamas Fire, and I would love it if she would come up and introduce herself to you and tell us a little bit about her.
Hello, thank you, new training captain, Isla Borders. A little background about me. I grew up in a baseball family. My dad played for the Dodgers in the minor league system. So I pretty much had a baseball in my hand instead of a blanket or a doll. My goal was to be the first woman to play for the Dodgers. And I ended up, that was my main mission, my purpose, my goal. I ended up playing 4 years of professional baseball. Played all throughout Japan too, for the minor league system in Japan, played in Puerto Rico, got to live out my dream and do that. Leaving being a baseball player, I got right into the fire service, started as a volunteer firefighter, went out there, volunteered 1 year for Santa Ana Fire in California, went through their California fire system, and then got picked up by Long Beach Fire, moved out to Phoenix, got picked up out by Gilbert Fire out in the Phoenix area. About 10 years I worked on as a truck. My dad was a mechanic, and I worked construction and baseball and mechanical stuff. I'm very mechanical. And so they said, you're perfect for the truck. So worked 10 years on the truck, and I got to stay there. Moved out here, so got married, and I took my first test with Cornelius combination department. So I went from Long Beach, huge department, to Gilbert, 12 stations, a bigger department, and then went to a combination department with like 3 stations all working together, working with volunteers, working with interns, interface. I was like, what is this? City work to now interface stuff. I was out there for almost 8 years, and Clackamas has always been the place I want to go. It's the people, it's the culture that drew me here, and my very first day here, it's like you walk in, you're like, oh, this is my family. Been super welcoming. I have a steep learning curve. I have a lot to learn, but everybody's been helping me out. And like I said, I already feel like family here, and that's a true testament to know I'm in the right place. So thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Isla. Appreciate you coming. Okay, and we have a couple promotions. Let's first go with Battalion Chief Sam McCullough. Sam, this is.
I almost had a heart attack when you said that.
You almost did it. Oh, Pat almost had a heart attack. Hey, you're in good hands, Pat. You're in good hands, bro. Okay, so we got 6 days as a battalion chief with
Yeah.
Clackamas Fire, so
Got it nailed.
super stoked to have Sam be here before.
Yeah, thank you for having me tonight. I don't know how I'm gonna follow after Isla and her awesome presentation. Again, my name's Sam McCullough. So I was originally a boring firefighter and I came over in the merger in 2014. Have had awesome opportunities to promote through all the ranks. I've held every single position. And like Chief Brown said, I've been here now for a whopping 6 days. So super excited to be here, excited to for the challenges and opportunities in this new position. On top of that, I'm also a division group supervisor with the Oregon State Fire Marshal Incident Management Team. So participating in that, continuing my endeavors in the wildland sector of things. And then outside of here, my wife, she works for Kaiser. She's a nurse there. And I got 2 kids, 13 and 11, super involved in sports. My daughter made gymnastics traveling team. So my weekends are now busy doing gymnastics meets. So that's a little bit about me. And thank you. And I look forward to working with all you in the future.
Thanks, Sam.
Right.
Sam was huge in the 2020 fires as a station captain, assigning him as a division to run divisions. Did a phenomenal job. So we're really excited to see him in this next step as a battalion chief for the fire department. Okay, last but not least, battalion chief Chris Taylor. Chris was promoted in November. And really excited about this with Chris. He's served in so much. I don't want to take too much of your time here, but he's always been driven for the fire department family, and he's been engaged since day one being in this organization. And so much of why we are who we are today is because of Chris's endeavors in EMS and just in his approach. So super stoked, Chris.
Yeah, thank you, Chris Taylor, newly promoted battalion chief since November. So I've been with the organization now for 17 years. So I came with over from McMinnville originally, where I was a career firefighter there for 5. Got to spend some time with a lot of people here, including Chief Searing and now board steering. So and one of the early mentors of me when I was in the train division early on in my career here at Clackamas. So excited to be a battalion chief and given the opportunity to continue on and mentor, and especially right now, our large group of upcoming company officers, which I think we just went through 11 or 12.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of information to do. So a lot of work to do. I'm excited to be here. A little bit from my home life. A lot of people may or may not know, but I'm also a pilot. I'm a flight instructor. So that's kind of one of my passions on the side. Has been for many years. I have a 19-year-old boy who's going to OSU for computer science engineering, and another boy who turned 16 in a few days. So that's me. Thanks.
Awesome. That's great. Thanks, Chris.
Congratulations.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Here. These introductions are new, and we did that at a request of Director Joseph, who felt that he would like to put names and faces together, which is a good idea, and that's why we introduced that this month. So business items now. Request board approval of resolution 23-01, referring a local option levy for fire and emergency medical services to the May 2023 ballot. Chief Brown.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marilyn and members of the board. Before I get into this small presentation, I want to turn some time over to Director Hawes, who was part of the future funding task force that was created about a year ago, and would just love for Director Hawes to kind of speak to where we've been, where we are, and why we got here, and would love it if you would just start this conversation.
In April of last year, we formed a group that we called the Future Funding Task Force. And it involved Chief Brown, Assistant Chief Dieters, myself representing the board. And in a very new and groundbreaking move, we added Andrew Gordian, who is a member of the union leadership team. Because we wanted we wanted everyone involved from every aspect of this organization involved as we looked at the options that we had, given the situation we were in. We evaluated a lot of things. We kind of did One of the things I tell people is if you want to go somewhere, the first thing you need to know, where are you now? Because if you use the directions to get from your house to work, but you start at your friend's house, you're gonna end up lost. First, you have to know where you are. So we spent quite a bit of time with Mark Whitaker looking at the financials, the fiscal situation, where we were. We looked at a lot of options, grants, the safer grants, other programs that were available to see, one, if other resources were available. The other thing we looked at is, were further fiscal cuts feasible? And that one we looked at very seriously, but it became quickly apparent that we had cut about as far as you would want to, without starting to do serious damage to the operational capabilities of the organization. And that seemed counterproductive for what we were trying to do. So then we started talking about possible funding. And right now we're under several urban renewal areas that cost us several $1 million every year, and that's a bit of a hurdle. We looked at the increasing need for service. Our call volume just keeps going up. It's close to 30,000, I think, a year. Yeah. With resources that haven't grown, as Mr. Gifford said, and I think Pat mentioned too, costs are going up. They're going up both for the people of this community that we serve, but it's also going up for the organization itself. And how do you balance that? So then we started looking at what the possibility of a levy was. And was it feasible? Was it reasonable? We have tried very hard to make sure that this is not too much of an ask. Ultimately, if we refer this, it goes to the voters and they'll tell us. This organization does a very good job. We'd like to do better. So I think that's the ask going to be for the people. As far as, the makeup of the committee, I think that was, we have from the union, their point of view, we've kind of kept. Andrew has been great for bringing their viewpoint. He knows staffing numbers like nobody I've ever seen. He can rattle them out pretty fast. We have the chief and assistant chief with their operational knowledge and background. And then myself, some of you might know, I got a little bit of a technical political background myself. I actually managed the campaign to merge boring fire with Clackamas Fire. And I did a little thing, kind of sort of helped make the city of Damascus go away. So I'm 8 years to make a city go away, 8 years, 6 elections, 5 pieces of legislature through the Oregon legislature. Other than that, I'm kind of a neophyte at this. So I think this task force, it's probably been one of the most productive groups that I think I've ever been involved with. It was a good size. We brought in other people, whether it was Chief Mueller or we had Mark involved quite a bit. The communications and PIO office at different times. And of course, we've hired a political consultant to bring their kind of professional expertise to tell us, what was possible. But all in all, this group has been as about as productive a group as I've ever been involved with. And what we're presenting tonight is what we came up with, is what we thought was the best solution given the situation we're in. Time and history will tell. I tell people history doesn't judge you by how quickly you make a decision. History judges you by whether you were right or not. So I guess we'll find out.
Well said.
Thanks, Chief.
Appreciate you, Chris. Appreciate all the work and time that's gone into this on your end. Members of the board, as your fire chief, and for those that are in the community watching this, I don't take this lightly. We have literally looked in every corner, flipped up every single rug, looked up every avenue possible for funding before going to the taxpayers for help. As Pat can attest, and anybody in this room can attest, we're the 911 agency. We're the ones that come to help. For me to stand in front of the communities that we serve and ask for help is something that I don't take lightly. It's something that is very hard for me to do as the fire chief, but I don't see any other way. I don't see any other way to be able to provide the level of service to you and your families, and to my family, and to the members of the Clackamas Fire family and their families that live here, than what we are coming to you and asking for. Simple fact is that we've had 15% administrative cuts, 9% operational cuts. That's service level decreases, with 15% increases in run volume. And those projected run volumes are only increasing. So a 9% cut in the people that respond to 911 calls, a 15% cut to the people that help those that respond to 911 calls, for a 15% service increase, with all the other risk factors that we've gone to the community and identified, that are real risk factors. They're not scare tactics. It's proven on data and real factors that we're going to be facing, that I need to, as your fire chief, to be able to notify you about. And at the end state is that the beautiful thing about this is that the voters get to decide. The voters get to decide what is best for their fire department and how they want their fire department to respond. As the fire chief, that is my duty to enforce. But it's also my duty to enforce what your fire department needs. And what your fire department needs is additional firefighters to provide increased staffing at most fire stations. We're looking at 62 firefighters that this is going to increase. And a comment was made earlier, a 25% increase of that individual's property taxes, which is real. It's a 30% increase as far as the level of services that are going to be able to be provided to the communities. What we were really wanting with this was a wall-to-wall service level increase, not just one community benefiting, but all of our communities benefiting. 24/7 staffing of the rural fire stations at Logan and Clark's. Those two fire stations are that front lines for the wildland urban interface threat that we are inevitably facing, that we are already facing. And it is also 2 fire stations that the taxpayers out there pay the same amount as somebody that is sitting next door to this fire station pays, with not the same level of service. We're looking at implementing an alternative response model, which includes lighter resources. Basically, the national name for this is quick response vehicles, to improve response efficiency in high volume service areas. What we are trying to do is limit the amount that the ladder trucks and the fire engines are having to go on some of these non-emergent, low emergent calls, and leaving the heavier assets available for fires, technical rescues, emergent life-threatening calls. We're looking at equipment critical to emergency and wildfire response. And this proposed levy would provide an average annual funding of about 14.5 million at a cost of 52 cents per thousand of assessed valuation. And if you look at the median, not real market value, but assessed valuation across the Clackamas Fire District, which we service, it is 2.6. You're going to get into that, but that median is $138 for the typical homeowner at the median assessed valuation. And with that, so that I don't dive into the numbers and get it all wrong, I'm going to turn it over to CFO Whitaker to speak to this next slide.
Sure, thank you, Chief Brown. So the slide you see here on the screen kind of shows an illustration of the spending plan for the levy. So as you just heard, the key purpose of the levy is to provide new staffing. But of course, it takes time to recruit and hire staff and get them onboarded. And we have, capacity constraints on how many people we can train and hire in a given year. So for example, in the first year, let's say we're able to run 2 academies to bring staff on. That staffing would cost just over $5 million in that first year, which means with the levy bringing in approximately, $14 million in revenue, we would have revenue remaining in that first year that we could invest in some of our capital needs, which you are all well aware of, right? So in that first year, you can see there in the orange bar, we have, just over $8 million available for capital, with just over $5 million going into personnel. right? And then as we staff up throughout the 5 years, by the 4th and 5th year, we're pretty much hired all the firefighters that we would expect to hire under the levy. You'll see more and more of that revenue going towards staffing and less available for those one-time capital purposes. But, you know, in total, across the 5 years, we're looking at about $19 million in one-time funding that would be available to help with our capital needs. You may remember from last year's budget, we had our first version of a 5-year capital plan that was short of resources by about $12 million. So this infusion of capital dollars would be critical to meeting some of those needs, while also building up the staffing and service level that Chief Brown talked about. Talking just a little bit about the revenue forecast, we've been very conservative in the assumptions here, so we can be certain that in year 5 and in the years leading up to that, we have sufficient revenue to cover the positions that we intend to hire. And so I feel comfortable in moving forward with that aspect of the forecast. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Brian.
Thank you. We have engaged our communities. We've done public outreach to 5 community fire stations. We've done hybrid events, which I'm really stoked to hear that one of the members of the audience was able to see it that way, and watch them online. You never truly know as you're trying to do this outreach if we're hitting the target audience, and it's good to hear that we are hitting the target audience. We've engaged our business community. We've engaged our neighborhood associations, all under the premise of this is what we are looking to do. We were fact finding. We were trying to gather information to see if there was favor for this in the community, if the community was seeing what we were seeing. And we hired a public relations firm. We did a quantitative study through DHM, and all of those have pointed us to where we are today, which has shown us through quantitative data that the community supports this. I would love to answer any questions from the board at this time before I formally request an action.
Well, we're gonna have some discussion before you.
Bingo. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I get the request.
Yes, okay, perfect, but yes, I'm just trying to do it proper. I don't know, I've never done this one before. So thanks, Marilyn.
Okay, so questions for the chief?
Just comments, but no question.
If we don't, Jay, do you have anything? Stay with us.
No, I'm here. No, we at our work session a few weeks ago, I think we brought up a lot of questions and answered most of them, yes.
Okay, all right, so then go ahead. There are no questions for the chief.
Okay, thank you.
So to me, this resolution is not about supporting the levy or not. It's about referring something to the voters. As my colleague Chris talked about, the task force that was put together, I thought Chris did a phenomenal job at that task. I trust him. I watched a couple of the town halls, the open houses. We were presented with the results of the survey that the consultant helped us with. We've had a lot of labor input and others. You listed in your staff report here, letters to neighborhood associations, chambers, social media. The representative of the local paper was here at the last meeting. I saw he did an article on that. So obviously a lot of people saw that. So to me, there's obviously enough that's been put into this to refer it. And I would never willfully withhold something from the voters to have the opportunity to vote on, especially when there's been so much work and time and effort put into it. I too learned a lot from Chris and was involved in those elections that he talked about, especially the Damascus one. And if there's anything I learned is let the voters have their say when something comes up. So I agree with William. The why is going to be important. He talked about a lot of work needs to be done, and well, there's 4 months, so I think a lot has been done, but the involvement of budget committee members
Others will be very important, and I think there's plenty of time for that. Pat is also correct, the affordability, being honest on the facts so that people know exactly what it costs and maybe even take your statement out and look at it so you actually know and you're not surprised later. So I think, but there's a lot of time to work through all of those. So I'll definitely support referring it to the voters. Well, then it comes down to, do we support it individually or not? And I happen to, I believe in it and everything that's been put into it. So that's my position.
But we do not take this very lightly, because for how much time and people time skill put into this with the task force as well as the board members in the work session. I believe that the chief and the staff, we always try to dwell on the proactive side of our budgeting, how we created the balanced budget, where when we had a $2.9 million budget, instead of running around and crying foul about whatever happened. I believe that shows the determination of the staff and the board. We need to move forward. What can we do proactively to resolve the issue that comes up? Whining and crying is not going to solve the problem, but we need to be taking steps positively. And we have discussed at length. And like Chris said, if we don't know where we are, we don't know how to reach our area where we want to go. The budget is an example. I don't know how much the general citizens would know the budget process, how much the cutting that we had. We discussed very briefly at the meetings or in publications, and I don't know the depth of the. I was approached by my friends, why the budget cuts. And we had to do that for the strength and health of the organization. And that's when the task force was appointed and they came with a recommendation. And affordability, William said, or Pat said, yes, what is affordability? If we don't have a healthy, efficient organization, what does the affordability do? If we don't have staff, but we don't have right equipment, and we are working on equipment that's going to be, we call it, the small emergency, high volume service areas. Those kind of equipments we cannot afford to buy at the current rate of our budget, what money we have. So the board has taken, I believe, has very, like Chief said, they lift every carpet, every nook and corner, see where we can cut or add, make the savings. But under the circumstances, this is the best option we have. That's what I recommend and I support this.
Is Jay one?
Okay.
He-
Did we lose him?
Yeah,
Yeah, I thought he either went to sleep or locked up.
They froze there.
okay, he's back.
I ran for this office on a platform of fiscal responsibility. But that's not just cutting costs. It's also making sure that this organization has the resources it needs to operate to the best interest of this community. A lot of the people in here in this room have probably heard my story. I was dumb enough to be the president of a little league. And I had a board we called the Rule of Three. We made decisions based on one, first, what's best for the kids. Two, what's best for the league. Three, I don't want to hear about it. Because by the time you got to three, we're talking about my kid, my wife, my coach, my team. If you stuck with the first two, you'd be okay. When I got here, I said I would make decisions based on one, what's best for the community we serve. Two, what's best for this organization. And three, I don't want to hear about it. So If there are people who voted for me based on fiscal responsibility and this doesn't help, I guess that's a 3, because I can't look at that. I would like to not be in the position we are, but we are where we are. And I believe this is an important thing that we put to the voters and ask them. Again, as Jim said, they can say no. But I think it's incumbent on us as the board of this organization to evaluate where we are and at least put forward the choice for people to make. Do we stay where we are or do we get better? And that's what I think this is gonna be, is do we stay where we are or do we get better? Because we can function where we are. And that's kind of what we're gonna do. We're probably not gonna thrive, we're not gonna excel, we're gonna function. And that's the thing we need to ask our constituents in this community that we serve, is what level of service do you want to be? So we will put this forward to them, or at least I will support putting this forward to see what the community says. And we'll take the answer they give us and run with it.
Jay?
Yeah, thank you. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, cool. We'll see how long this connection lasts. Boy, Chris, I tell you what, I agree so much with everything you said, and after the wildfires a few years back, the community wanted better. They said, we want better, and we want change, and we want improvement. And I believe our staff took a big step back. They looked at some of the challenge that we had during the wildfires. They did an outstanding job of taking a 360-degree view of the organization and said, how can we do better? What do we need to do to meet our community? And it wasn't just to meet the wildfire need, it was to meet all of the needs going into the future. And then we looked at our budget and we said, we don't have enough money to do the things that that we have been asked to do by our own community. We're looking into the future in the 5 to 10 years. We're looking at cuts. That's just a simple fact. You know, as you guys know, I was with Boring Fire District before I was with Clackamas, and with Chief Stewart, and Chief Dieters, and we looked into the future and we saw the future doesn't look good for Boring Fire District when it comes to the amount of money we had available to us. And here we are with Clackamas, and we're looking into the future, and we're looking at saying, you know, we've already sustained cuts. Not the command staff has done an outstanding job of keeping that away from operations, but unfortunately, the fire chief and his staff has already made cuts to our organization, and the next cuts, I'm afraid, are going to end up being operational cuts. Yes, can we continue to do a good job? Of course, they're going to do a good job, but it is going to at some point in the not too distant future, it's going to affect us operationally, and I just feel that to maintain what we've got, and then of course to improve, we have to look at other ways of funding. And Chris, you and your team, man, you guys did such a great job of looking at all the alternatives of funding sources and what we need to do to move to the future. And Jim, you know, we've talked at length at many times, even back when I was with Boring Fire District, of absolutely we need to let the voters decide. That's to some degree, I feel my response.
That's it? Okay, I just want to be sure. I didn't cut him off.
About that.
It was,
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Now he's done. John,
Are you willing to take a question or a comment?
about the topic we're on?
Yes.
As long as it's short.
Yeah.
Sure.
Question is, this levy going to propose for May. Did anybody analyze the May elections as other levies that have been put on? It's a very low voter turnout usually in May. Just a question, has that been looked at to see some that have been put on that have passed or failed or?
Yes.
It's my understanding they specifically recommended targeting May because 2 people vote except those who want it. And your chances of passing, I believe the consultants would say are great.
You have a more informed electorate or not? Those are the people that vote in every election.
Okay, well, I want to thank everyone who's participated in this process, from all of our staff and the crews who opened their firehouses, and of course, Chris and his group for doing a terrific job to move this significant problem. Pat Bigelow stole most of my words, so to me, these questions are, is this the right time for this? Is this the right amount of money? And are these the right projects? And the answer for me is no on all three counts. But nonetheless, I do believe Jim is correct and everybody else, and it should be referred to the taxpayers because it is not my decision, it is their decision. But it is, it's just not the right time. When we started this process, we had, and since we started this process, we have had inflationary trend that is, we haven't seen in 40 years. Eggs are $6 a dozen now, and they were $1.39 when we started this process. So the problem is that it seems insensitive at this time to say to our taxpayers, well, you're gonna pay your property taxes and pay us an extra 24, 25%. And so you can't buy food for your kids. It doesn't resonate well. We have a lot of seniors, no offense, Pat, who are on limited, and I can surround retirement budgets or limited budgets, and it is a significant hurt on them. And it is a major dollar amount. There is unspoken a houseless crisis in Clackamas County. Doesn't get the press that Portland gets, doesn't get the press that Multnomah County gets. But there's no question that we have a large number of people in this county who are houseless. And those people who have rentals now that are hanging on, just making the amount they need for the rent, no one can deceive themselves that the landlords are going to eat this extra money. They are not. They are going to pass it on as part of a rental increase, perhaps generating even more houselessness. So that leads to whether is this the right amount? And this is a very large amount. It is an increase of approximately 24 to 25% of what our current permanent rent rate is. And it would seem to me that stepping in a little less aggressively would be a better approach. We also are going to need more capital funds than just the amount that's going to be generated if this were to pass. And so we're going back to taxpayers in a few years wanting even more tax dollars. So how much is enough? Can we put it to good use? Of course we can. Do we need the money or do we want the money? It's like the staffing issue. Do we need to have that many people or we just want to have that many people? Do we want to have that many people because there's some national standard that somebody cooked up and said, well, you should want this. Okay, that's what we want. But is that what we need? And I haven't heard a needs assessment, just we want to have 4 people. I certainly think our firefighters should always be safe. But there's no demonstrable evidence that having one more firefighter makes anybody else more safe. It's their training and attention that makes them safer. So then the projects. The projects are a question for me. The major portion of this will be for staffing, of course. And but most of our calls remain in the EMS venue. That's what we do mostly. And there's a passing reference that we're going to look at the possibility of having these alternative vehicles. Well, that's what our cause is now. We do EMS mostly. And it seems to me that it is getting a minor brush in this thing. There's nothing that I heard of also that's dealing with prevention. And if people don't leave the fire stations because they don't have as calls, or the calls are not severe because our people have, our prevention people have educated everybody, then I think we're ahead if we step up the prevention programs. but there's nothing in the proposal to deal with any aspect of prevention, except maybe the wildfires. Okay, so wildfires, and Chief Olson, Brent Olson did a fabulous job. I was at 3 of the 4 open houses. And there's no question he knows his stuff and he's extremely passionate about it. But in my mind, there's no question that fighting wildfires is a regional issue. Why should my taxpayers have to be the ones that pay for everybody's wildfire? It should be just like the 800 and other aspects that we share with adjoining fire districts or agencies. Everybody's in it together and everybody funds it, not just Clackamas. So, but, you know, as I said, nonetheless, I don't believe that this is my decision. This is for the taxpayers to decide. If they think it's too much, they will vote it down. I do want to close by, again, repeating that everybody on the task force and staff has done a great job of presenting it. It's just too much, and not the right stuff, in my opinion. So, okay. And with that, if I can find agenda, I'd like to know, do I hear a motion to approve resolution 23-01, referring a 5-year local option levy for fire and emergency medical services on May 16, 2023 election?
So moved.
Second.
And it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none?
Madam, I just want to say one, I feel this is a united decision by the board. That has been, all the vetting process was done, so we feel the whole board is united in proposing to the community.
I wouldn't disagree with that characteristic. Yeah, Ariel, would you call?
Jay,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Marilyn,
Yes,
Thomas,
Yes.
Chris.
Yes.
okay, thank you. Other business. OB1. Board committee and liaison report, Civil Service Commission, Director Hall.
Oh, get the notes up. If I write them down, I forget the notes, so I put them in my phone. The civil service meeting, they, our main things they announced, the retirements and promotions, and, there was one other category that I forgot to write down. Retirements, didn't I do retirement promotions or some other?
New hires?
Maybe.
Yeah.
That sounds good. Okay, they appointed the commission chair, to no one's great surprise, Jim Dilly got thrown under the bus for the 37th or 38th year or whatever it is. He seemed used to it, he dodged the tire pretty well. They approved the division chiefs list, the firefighters, and lieutenant task packet. And set a special meeting for March. And I gave a report on the stuff we've been doing, director's report for kind of about the levy and brought them up to speed a little bit and that sort of thing. That was about it.
There's a opening.
Yes, there is. There's an opening. One of the commissioners is up for reappointment. So there is an opening on the commission board for a 5th member.
And he's gonna run again. Is what he's done. So the whole
First position.
Jeff Griffin.
And I think John's gonna apply.
So is it an open position or?
His term, he's termed, and so, but he's indicated that he wants to apply
He will
again.
rearrange.
And now we have a second candidate, so you guys will have interviews in February for that position.
Marilyn, I didn't catch it initially, B2.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And then also, we do have Civil Service Commissioner Mike Morrow in the audience as well.
I do have that written down, my apologies. Okay, I'm backstepping to B2 Foundation. Mr. Carden,
You.
you're the only one in the room.
You have to forgive me, Madam Chair. The speaker makes it very, since the display makes it very difficult to read the lips.
It's weird, isn't it?
I'm here at the moment, I believe, to explain to you why the foundation does not have a budget to present to you. It's a simple fact that during the last three foundation meetings, we did not have a quorum present sufficient to conduct business. And Cal Gorman left his position in December because of his mother's death. And we had a re-election, or an election, I should say, of all of the board members, and there was a total turnover. Consequently, it fell through the cracks, to be very bluntly honest with you. Commissioner or Jay was good enough to advise us of this. It may have been you, Madam Chair, that brought it up. I don't remember which of the two said something. We currently have a draft budget that is going to the foundation tomorrow at our meeting. Our meetings unfortunately overlapped. We expect it's going to be approved. And I expect that I will be here next month saying, I'm here to present the budget. I hope that answered that portion of the questions. Commissioner Cross, Director Cross, also suggested that Don Trotter and I get together and reread, revise, and perhaps rewrite a lot of the bylaws, policies, procedures, etc., which have not been looked at for over 5 years. That meeting is scheduled for Friday of this week. We're not sitting back in our recliners doing it by Zoom. We're going to go face to face with one another and discuss. And I hope to be able to come back to you at this meeting next month. Well, no, it won't be. It'll be in 2 months with that. To say, here's the product that we've come up with. Give us your blessings. From the standpoint of the foundation, that's all I have to report. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Okay, I would say that, then on behalf, go ahead.
I did send an email out that I know Director Trustee Trotter got, because he replied to it. And I sent it to Director Cross and yourself, Madam Chair. I didn't hear from either one of you, and as I said to the chief today, I am not one who is in the habit of fighting directors or peer people about something. Especially since I know it went from somewhere, Don got it. And I'm presenting myself here tonight to say, if for some reason you didn't get it, it's my fault. But it was my ignorance also as to the fact that you did not get it.
I'll have to recheck. I don't recall getting it. I don't know if Jay did. But I think that based on the consensus I hear from the board, that at this time, as the sole member of the foundation, we waive the obligation to present the budget by now and look forward to receiving it next month.
You will have it next month, unless for some reason the trustees tomorrow do not approve it. And Gary Rosenbaum and myself are twisting as many arms, helping as many people as we can to understand what's in the budget.
Well, yeah, and they understand the need for budget. You must have a budget.
Yes, understand. Thank you.
Thanks, Jerry.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I
Thank you.
missed that. Thank you, Chief. Okay, EMS committee report, Directors Cross and Joseph.
We had a meeting on January 11th. Jay and myself with Rick Hoffman. Mostly Rick was bringing us up to date to what's going on with all the process with the county. And the changes happening in the fire district as well. Nothing more in details unless Jay has picked up something, Jay, that you want.
He fell off the call again.
He did.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's
Okay.
Yeah, right now, I'll add him back.
Okay, that's okay. All right, I don't think there was no other significant discussions took place other than Rick Hoffman was updating Jay and I on the EMS committee of the district. That's all that.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Well, when Jay is available again, we'll have him give a foundation update. In the meantime, OB2, Sandy Fire IGA update. Chief.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. You probably received today a copy of the red line contract that we're working with Sandy on. At their meeting of the 12th, the fire chief and Assistant Chief Stewart and CFO Whitaker, we went to their work session. We answered questions, did another presentation, sort of what their multiple questions were. We exited when they started their meeting, and they informed us afterward at their board meeting that they took action and they voted to end the IGA dated June 30th, 2023. So they voted to end that. So that's their notice that ends. We presume that in February, the contract will come before you guys for consideration. Happy to answer any questions.
Did they discuss or decide, did they vote on the contracts? The board,
No,
when are they going to do that?
it's in the legal process right now. So you have the red line copy, they have that copy. So it's a matter of working those out. And like I said, we anticipate February that they would have it all done and take a vote. Then it would be brought to you guys with, we'll do a staff report and all that and do a presentation.
Did you send it out today?
Yes, Brian sent it out today.
Well, it came at 4 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
So they in essence voted to end the current IGA June 30th, which because it has a 6-month notice, I guess that
Yes.
covers that. We don't need to take any action on that. We basically just accept it. Okay, they
Accept
concur, you gave notice, so we don't have to worry about that. With the intent, it sounds like of voting in February on the contract, yes or no. So then if they do, then that would come before us in February.
Yes, and that would start
For
July 1.
consideration.
The date that's in there is July 1, so.
So there's nothing we need to do really at this point, other than, I was gonna ask Director Joseph, perhaps with all of this going on, it's been a while since we've had an interagency committee meeting with them. Maybe we can get through the votes in February, really either way. If both boards voted yes, well then we probably need a meeting. If one or the other votes no, well then we probably need a meeting anyway about now what do we do? So maybe March, first couple weeks of March sometime, maybe do a doodle. Because I've seen doodles for other meetings already happening for that time period, so maybe if you think so. we
Sure.
So,
Aerial coordinate.
Questions? All right, thank you. Is Jay back yet?
Yes, he just joined.
Okay. Jay, did you have a report to the foundation?
Well, basically, I think Jerry just covered most of it, but yeah, we met, we're working on bylaws, we're working on some policy changes to update the policy changes. They haven't been looked at 5 years. And then, of course, as Jerry explained to you, the other thing we're looking at is trying to actually get an actual head count of how many trustees we have. And so Jerry and Don are working on actually getting a head count, because obviously that has to do with what a quorum looks like. So we still have a little bit of work ahead of us. I lost that. I'm not sure exactly when Jerry said he would be back to present that stuff, but I do not believe it will be until the March meeting. I think that's kind of the plan for the budget and some of the other documents. I think it's going to take a little while to iron it out. And then, of course, I believe Don and Jerry are going to meet this next week to hammer out some of the language that we talked about the other day. So we're moving forward. We're definitely getting there, but we opened up a can of worms, I guess, with the with some of the documentation, but we'll have something for the board by March. So.
Okay, thank you, Jerry.
It is the intention of the foundation that we will present to you next month a budget that has been certified, ratified by our trustees. Originally, we had talked about March. Sherry was good enough and skilled enough to put together a budget that is legitimate and that we will present tomorrow to the trustees, enabling us to come to you in February.
I think Jay is talking about some broader issues such as the bylaws and the quorum requirements and stuff like that, other than the budget.
They may go out even further than March.
Yes.
I'm not sure.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Thank you, Jay and Jerry. Teddy. All right, does any of the board members have any additional updates or comments they want to share? Thomas?
I want to thank Chief Nick and Merlin Wall took the time to follow up on my request about the new staff introduction at the board meetings. I knew made me feel good because you didn't take that lightly. The suggestions that I made, you know, like a business, when you have a new employee is hired, I think it will be appropriate that employee is introduced to the board or the management or in general, so that they just don't come in silos and work on their own little truck. So thank you for taking the time to follow up with me, updating me about the conflicts of scheduling and timing, and I totally understand and thank you.
Well, and there is one additional thing I think that the staff is going to attempt to do, and that is to give more notice to the board of pending swearing-ins or promotional ceremonies, so we have time to put it on the calendar. So I think that might help too. All right, all right. Anybody else have one? So it'll be three. Good. Okay, divisional reports, Office of the Fire Chief, Chief Brown.
Okay, for the sake of time, I'm just gonna make this real short and sweet for me. The staff and really last month was heavy focused on educating the communities that we serve about the levy potential and for what we just went through today. So much social media content put out during the month of December, not only with Operation Santa, but also the levy surveys, community events, holiday safety, job announcements, weather updates. We had another ice storm in December that stretched resources. Crews did an amazing job, but just a great job by all administrative staff and the crews every single day, day in and day out. So with that, love to answer any questions if you have any.
Questions for Chief? Jay? Jay?
No, good. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to ask you because I can't see you. So.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think if I turn my camera on, I lose connection. So.
Well, let's not do that. Okay. Office of Strategic Services Assistant Chief Stewart will now give an update.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I'll just touch on two pieces this evening. First, IT and their completion of the VoIP or soft phone installation piece. So during the month of December, November, December, they installed over 170 desktop phones over 27 different facilities, plus soft phones on everybody's workstations, as well as mobile devices. The implementation had a few bumps along the way because of interface challenges between the VoIP vendor, US Digital, for example. Our speakers in the ceiling didn't necessarily ring or do paging across. Like if you picked up the phone and wanted to page across the station, so they had to work with a third vendor, Honeywell, to get that fixed. But overall, that project's been implemented, and is resulting in ongoing, cost savings for the district compared to our prior phone service. So thank you for the support in getting that, done. And then secondly, in January, really, the long legislative session has kicked off. With that, of course, there's a new governor, who has 3 priorities: education, childcare, housing and homelessness, and mental health. The last thing that she's looking at addressing is state agency accountability. While it's not a outward priority, it's certainly one of hers. OFCA is certainly engaging our lobbyist, working with SDAO, or at least I'm attending their stuff as well. A few things that are out there. One, there's about 1,900 bills that have been dropped so far into the legislature. We're tracking within OFCA, maybe close to 100 of them, give or take. Certainly that will whittle down over time. There's a lot of placeholder bills. Part of that is the governor's budget is not yet submitted. That's due by February 1st, since she's a new governor. Once that comes along, we'll see some things line up, and we'll certainly see additional bills dropped by each of the agencies that support the governor's initiatives. So it's going to be a busy legislative session, and more to come next month. Answer any questions?
Jay, any questions for your friend?
No, thank you.
Okay, Assistant Chief Leaders will now give an update from the Office of Business Services.
All right, thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Real quick update, if you recall, last July, you approved the fire marshal's office to start charging for claims reviews that we're not required to do throughout the areas we serve. Since then, we've had one complaint about that, and it was more of they didn't like how the process went, not that we were charging, just how they had to go about paying their fee. And since then, we've collected just over $15,000 in those fees, or about 69% of where we budgeted we would be. So wanted to give you a quick update on that. And then 2 really great things happened in January. You probably already know what they are. My birthday and then the Op Santa update every year. So I'm going to defer to Community Services Chief Wiley to give that update.
Was there a big ceremony for your birthday? Forget about the
Yeah, I guess everyone will go with the non-birthday PowerPoint. Perfect. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I will keep it brief. As you experience every year, leading up to Op Santa, we talk about it, tell you what we're going to do, and afterwards we tell you how we did it and the successes of it. So that's what I have the opportunity to be here doing today. Before we go to the next slide, I do want to acknowledge, and I shared this before, I had a lot of help this year from the organization, but also specifically I want to bring up Ryan Crogro. Days before we kicked off Op Santa, he stepped into his new position as the volunteer coordinator that does have a significant connection to Operation Santa through the volunteers. And he was willing to step up and helped a lot and was at pretty much every event. And I just really appreciate that because it was also nice to have someone there to bounce ideas off and work together with. So if you want to go to the next slide, Ariel. So what we did this year, this is what I shared before, we did 4 community parades. Obviously, the significance to that is we haven't done parades for a few years. So we're able to bring those back. Those were non-collection parades. And we worked really hard to get that message out that they were just demonstration parades, encouraging people to come to a drop-off event. And we did have people out in the community with bags. We did our best to try to collect those, educate along the way. The message did work though, because I was on 3 of the 4 parades and a high majority of the people did not have bags out there. The message got out. I do think consistency and continued messaging on this in the future, with this likely being the avenue we take, will make this even more successful in the future. We've already had a few ideas popping around to continue to make this a known fact of how we do this. We haven't had a chance yet. We will meet here in the near future to kind of recap how it's gone. Like we have the last several years, we did 5 drop-off events spread out throughout the community. Opportunity for people to come by, wave at Santa, say hi to a firefighter, see an antique, and then move on. Those were a lot of fun. They're successful. And I'll have those numbers for you here in a second. Like last year, we did not have our warehouse. So we found partners in the community that are professionals at distributing donations throughout the community. And when I say throughout the community, mostly focused on Clackamas County. This year, majority of our sharing went to the Clackamas Service Center, and with a portion of it going to the Amen Group out of Clackamas. They have a focus on military families. Again, kind of connecting with both those groups is our effort to try to reach a broad group of our community and those in need in our community. And I kind of talked about this a second ago, organizational participation. That was huge this year. Chief Brown really asked the organization to step up and be involved. And this was specific to the entire organization, but the command and general staff, and everybody stepped up. We had throughout the days of each drop-off event, we had 4 to 5 uniformed command and general staff people show up, help out, bring food, bring coffee, just to kind of support the whole process, which is an important thing, though. It's one sliver of what the organization does. It's one opportunity to give back to the community. The other one about that too is we had crews that would stop by as well on duty and say hi and help out. The parades were a lot of fun for that as well. We had good turnout on those as well. And I think people really enjoyed getting out there and waving. A lot of people, having not been around for a few years, never had a chance to do a parade. So it was an opportunity to get out and be involved in that. Go to the next slide. So for our collection for this year, we collected about 6,300 pounds of food. And just so you know, that is not weighed can by can. We take an average of barrels, put that together, and that average has been established in the past. And so we're keeping consistent numbers. The district collected about 30 barrels. That's how that factors out. About 3,500 toys were collected. And through all that, redistributing through those community groups, we were able to serve, help serve around 700 different families, which is an exciting thing to give back to the community. I do want to kind of share how this compares to last year, because I think everyone's always curious how that goes. Last year, we did get more food. We got several more barrels of food. I don't know why. There's some factors we speculated. I don't know if it's true or not. You know, some cost of groceries have gone up, supply chain issues, those different things. But our toy collection did increase. Last year, we got right around 3,000. So we increased that by about 500. So exciting year. We'll definitely start to continue to make changes to make what you see as a rough estimate model to continue to improve each year. So happy to answer any questions anybody has for me.
Questions? Jay, do you have a question?
No, but good job, Doug, and Ryan, as usual.
Perfect. That makes me think of one more thing. Huge thank you to our volunteers. Almost forgot that. I meant to say that for the end. We had a meager group of volunteers. Our numbers, as we all know, it's growing now. We have an academy going. Was our lowest number of volunteers helping than we've ever had before. And they were out in force, every single one of them. And not only out in force, but wonderful attitudes, enjoyable to be around, just great people. And I'm really proud of them. They represent the organization extremely well. And we couldn't do this without them. I really mean that. So huge thank you to them.
Thank you.
I'd also like to concur and thank the volunteers for the job that they did. I'd also like to thank the chief for encouraging staff to help and assist. We didn't have that before, so I think that was good, great on your part, so thank you. I did get some feedback from some community members. I think the citizens were glad that we did something, but 4 parades, it would be nice, you know, as you meet and kind of figure out what we learned and what we can do next time. It would be nice if there was a way to maybe build back into doing more parades so that more communities get to participate in that. And maybe I specifically have someone to give your name, their name to you, that from one of the cities that would like to help, and the city would like to step up their effort in assisting, you know, next time. So overall, good job and cool. Thanks to everyone.
Absolutely. And we did talk, we haven't formally talked, but we have talked about the parades, and not sure what they're going to look like bringing them back. There was some, I hate to say apprehension, but not knowing how they would be received, accepted. But we did recognize as they got rolling, that significantly less of a time and energy impact than we've seen in past years, because we aren't collecting during those. So that is one of the topics on our list to talk about, trying to maybe expand slightly on those programs again. Perfect. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Doug. Okay. CFO Whitaker will now give us an update from the Office of Financial Services.
Great, thank you. Good evening. So the finance report, as usual, is included in your packet, starting on page 22. I'll just say, the revenues continue to be strong, but at the same time, expenses are also high and climbing, both with inflation and some of the staffing challenges and choices that we've had to make. So at the moment, those are kind of netting each other out. So we're roughly on track to end the year with a balanced budget, but it's definitely close and tight, but compared to where we were last year at this point, a definite improvement. The other thing I noted in the finance report, we talked about the cash balance last month, and as predicted, it has gone back up with strong revenues and cash coming in December. So we're back up on cash. Quick update on the audit. So the fiscal year 21-22 audit, as we've talked about before, we're kind of last in line with our new auditor. Took a lot of work to clean up some things internally and also to get them up to speed on our operations. So the state did approve their extension request to go beyond the December 31st deadline. And they'll probably be able to present that at the March board meeting as the current schedule. And then the last thing I'll mention is just, as the board knows, we were successful last year in getting the assistance to firefighters grant for new cardiac monitors. And so the new grant applications came out earlier this month. And so we're currently putting together an application for new to replace our radios, which is a big capital item that we've had in our capital plan that we need funding for. So we're putting together that application now. It's due in early February. So I just wanted to give preliminary thanks to Chuck Carlick, Mike Carlson, Bill Bischoff, and Michael Wong for doing the work to put together, and Matt Amos doing the work to put together that application for us. And I think that's it for my update for financial services, unless there's any questions.
Questions? Jay, do you have any questions for Mark?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Chief Mulek will now give an update from the Office of Emergency Services.
Awesome. Thank you, Marilyn. Just real quick, not to steal Steve's thunder at all, but I want to hit on the apprentice program real quick. We've moved forward with the apprentice program, and last week we moved Captain Nate Hahn into the office to be the apprentice coordinator. We're going to have him in the office run this from under operations for about 2 years. Nate has been instrumental at the state level. Has really written a lot of the policies and procedures that go along and kind of the foundation of the apprenticeship program through the state. And we're excited to have him he's kind of the expert right now. And he's going to go in and take this to the next level for us. So this is really just, we're one of 3 departments in the state between Jackson County, District 5, Eugene, Springfield, and then Clackamas Fire. So really pioneers in this, and I think we have a really good product moving forward. Right now, the applications are open. They're open for a couple more weeks for the recruitment period, and we hope to have an academy going by the summertime. So there's a lot. I know Steve has a lot of information on it as well. I just want a quick thank you for the work with the local and Nate Hahn stepping into that position. I think it's huge. With that, with moving a captain off the line, there's always things that we got to do to fill it. So I want to congratulate Lieutenant Craig Bowen, who's now starting February 1st is going to be a captain. He's going to be at the Gladstone Station, Station 22. Captain Bauer, who's done a phenomenal job, is going to go to the Lake Road Station, Station 4. And firefighter Dusty Mock, a long-time swimmer out of the boat program, is going to be a lieutenant at Station 22 as well. So that exhausts our lieutenants list. And yeah, a lot of great things happening with that, but we're excited about the apprenticeship program.
Dan, real quick.
Yep.
That got launched Friday. 30 apps already as of this morning that have been applied for that program. So pretty good, pretty awesome.
Okay, any questions for Chief Miller? Jay, any questions?
No, ma'am, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Is Andrew with us?
Yes.
There you are, Liz. In person, my goodness. Reporting from shop steward guardian now.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. So just a couple quick updates. We attended an educational conference in Salem earlier this month. That went well. Congrats to Nate Hahn for that appointment. Thanks for stepping up. It's going to be awesome running the apprentice program. We wrapped up our first week of the 4 platoon system. So far, it's gone off without a hitch. So that's awesome. We're working collaboratively with the administrative staff to do internal messaging for the levy. And yeah, and I also wanted to take this opportunity to thank Director Haas and Chief Brown and Assistant Chief Dieters for all of the collaborative work that we've done through the Future Funding Task Force. I think it's been excellent. I'm really looking forward to what we can do. So, thank you. If you don't have any questions.
Jay, you have any questions for Andrew?
No, thank you. Good to see you, buddy.
Thanks, Jay.
I don't know if you realize how instrumental you've been in that, Andrew. The knowledge, the collaboration, the experience that you've brought, you've been a huge impact to that Future Funding Task Force. So appreciate you. There's been a lot of time coming in off the job for the betterment of everybody. So really, really appreciate your time and effort into that program.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, volunteer coordinator Craig Royal and President Carden will now give an update from the volunteer center.
Madam President, members of the board, just going to give you a quick brief rundown on December's activities. There was a tactical decision made by Chief Wiley that was approved where we would suspend drills which is normal practice, but we also suspended duty shifts because of the lack of staffing of volunteers so that we could execute well on Operation Santa. And you can see through his presentation that we had 700 families that we helped during that time. And on a side note, I think it was a great break for the volunteers just to spend time with their families and not have to try and balance both activities. So that resulted in 0 training events, but 11 community service events, 1 night of coverage at Station 12, and then 7 support coverages. Not great, but just looking at January so far, we've turned the corner and kind of come back in, and we have an academy of 16, 17 new volunteers. 6 are with Sandy. We're doing a joint academy. And depending on what happens between the boards, they could eventually be Clackamas or they could stay separate. But this group is fantastic. So you'll hear more about them in future months. And if you have any questions.
Questions, anyone? Jay, any questions for Ryan?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Marilyn, it's not a question, but I just want everybody to recognize that mustache. I want you to look at my friend's mustache, Chief Olson's mustache. He's a little bit jealous that he can't grow one like Ryan, and I can't grow one like Ryan either. So it does when you give him a hug. It does. It's amazing.
Notice that Sam's quick.
So Stan, you know what? There's Stan. That's a close.
Okay, enough. Jerry?
Yes, Madam President, and members of the board, just one item, but it's a big item. One of our volunteers, Tony Johnson, celebrated 40 years as a volunteer. And the association, not the district, the association awarded him a sizable remembrance of this momentous occasion. And he was totally floored by it. And I have to say this, Tony is one of our better responders, even after 40 years of service. That's all I have.
Thanks, Jerry. Jay, you have anything you want to add?
No, thank you. And Jerry, thank him for us. That's an amazing feat. That's wonderful.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Jay, I did not understand that.
Yeah, thank him for me for sure too, because that's an amazing feat. 40 years as a volunteer. That's good stuff. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
And at that meeting, it was on the 9th, it was the Volunteer Association meeting, and I was able to attend. And Chief Brown and Peters were both there, did a real nice presentation. And so we were able to thank Tony and see it in person. Tony came from District 54. He started as a volunteer, District 54, and then in the 1988 merge, when Happy Valley, District 54 and 71 came together, he stayed on and is the longest serving member, even longer than me by 2 years, so, yeah, good job, Tony.
Were you went 54?
No, I was 71, yeah.
Okay, board, we have correspondence, items and informational items. Anyone want to comment or on them at all? Jay?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Okay. All right, the next meeting of the board of directors will be on Monday, February 27th, 2023 at 5 p.m. The meeting will be a hybrid again with the public invited to attend either by remote video conferencing or in person here at this station. At this time, the regular board of directors meeting will be recessed at 6:35 for the board to hold an executive session pursuant to ORS 192.6602A to discuss the personnel matter. So we'll take 5 minutes, board, please.
Recording.
Okay, did you have something you want to say, Jay? Jonathan.
No, just want to let you know I'm here. I actually got signed in.
Okay, so the regular board of directors meeting will now reconvene at 7:22 p.m. In the executive session, no decisions or actions were made regarding the personnel matter or matters. Is there anybody standing in the hallway
I'll go check.
Here's somebody.
that wants to come in here?
No, we're good. That was the dispatch.
Okay, so is there any other business that needs to come before the board tonight? Yes, anybody? I want to personally thank Jay Cross for doing exceptional service and managing to do this by Zoom from somewhere else.
Yeah, right now I'm out in the Pacific Ocean somewhere. I'm not even sure where at this point.
All right, then the regular board of directors meeting is now adjourned at 7:23 p.m.
Thank you.